Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In today's video I'm going to be migrating my 24/7 server from Windows with Hyper-V to Proxmox. Depending on how long it takes, I might be doing it in two parts, where the first part is reinstalling the OS on the host with Proxmox and importing all my VMs. And then the second part is actually setting up TrueNAS. If it takes too long, I'll be able to restore the original image of the server onto a VM and keep my original storage spaces and all my original file shares, including Plex and all of that stuff. But if I have enough time, I can do it in one go and I'll import all of the TrueNAS stuff also. So if we go around to the back, we can see that I have attached a external SSD, which I'll be using as a temporary storage to move all my VMs to. I'll be able to export the VMs from Hyper-V and save them as a VHDX file, and then inside of Proxmox I'll be able to run a command that will import it into a VM. It's basically the same procedure as you saw in a previous video that I made, where I did a proof of concept migrating a VM to this N100 Proxmox host. So let's jump to the computer and we'll have a look at what I'll be doing. So here we are at the computer and we can see the little plan that I have made. So a few of the prerequisites is that of course I have to make sure that I know all the IP addresses of my VMs, so I'll be able to assign them in Proxmox as well. Then I'll need to install the drivers, the VirtIO drivers on each VM, which I've already done before I started this video. And then the last prerequisite is a bit optional. It's basically you could have a pre-installed SSD that was all ready to go with Proxmox installed, as I'll be overriding the OS on my server now with the 128GB SSD. I won't need to have this step. Of course I'll have a rollback plan, so if anything goes wrong during this process I'll be able to roll back. So actually in the first part of the migration, before I have done anything with the storage pool, I'll be able to apply the backup that I take before I begin. Be able to apply that to the server and it will restore the OS plus the NVMe SSD that has all of my VMs on it. After the storage migration, I'll also need to basically do the same, but I also need to reset up storage spaces and copy over all of my data, which is the last resort. I would really prefer to find a other solution because it will take a lot of extra time. So during the migration process itself, I'll need to export my VMs. I'll need to prepare Plex, including disabling automatic trash and getting all of the database files and metadata out. I'll need to make sure I have a backup of my storage pool because I'll need that backup to reload all the files. I'll take a full backup of the system, excluding the storage pool, so this will include the OS and the NVMe drive containing the VMs. Then we'll install Proxmox, we'll import the VMs, and then the part 2 will then be to install TrueNAS and install Plex. If we run out of time, we can skip these two steps and we can basically apply the system backup of the server, and then we can apply that to a VM, and then we can let all of the applications continue to run inside of that until we can have more time. So now we are going to get started with the first step, which is basically to export the VMs. So I have this command here that I'll need to run, and we'll need to make sure the VMs are all shut down. So I'll do that. Just select them all here. Do shutdown. And as I said, I did already install the VirtIO drivers, so all of the VMs should be completely good to go. I did also make sure that I don't have any snapshots of any of the VMs, because I don't think that will play nicely with importing them into Proxmox. So I've just deleted all the snapshots. I didn't actually delete them, I didn't have any. So we'll just see here that these VMs are still shutting down. Should finish soonish. Okay, so this one didn't shut down. Oh, actually, now it did something finally. Okay, so I'll just do shutdown. Yep. And now I need to shut down the domain controller. Okay, so finally all of the VMs have been shut down. And I have prepared this little command that we will use. So over here I have the SSD that I showed you earlier, and I did export that, which I need to delete. So I'll empty the trash just for good measure. Anyways, I have prepared this command which will export to the J drive and get all the VMs and put them there. And basically we'll just let this run. It will probably take a while since there's about 1.5 or 1.2 terabytes of data. So if we look at the J drive here, you can see it's going decently fast. And that's actually the primary reason for me to use an external SSD. It's because my server only has, well, I say only, but it has 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. And that is also what my backup server has. But I do have this external SSD, which is 10 gigabit. So it's a Samsung T7 Shield. So it has USB-C up to 10 gigabit. And yeah, I just think that will be a lot faster to use rather than using my my backup server. And also because it's a lot less complicated to mount it into Linux. I'm not that good at Linux yet, so it will be a lot easier to mount this exFAT. I will just show you. This is formatted as exFAT. We can see that here. And that will just make it very easy to mount inside of Linux. While this process is running, we could prepare Plex to be moved. So the first thing that you had to do before you started this was to disable the automatic trash cleanup. I did already do that. So if you look at prepare Plex, go to this link. We can see it tells you to disable automatic trash, which I already did. And then of course we have to do all this stuff on the destination server, which we can't do because it doesn't exist yet. But basically what I want is to make sure I have a backup of, I go here to servers, Plex Media Server. I need to make sure I have a backup of this whole folder. This folder is included in my file backup, which I ran previously, which I just showed you a while ago. So this server, this folder should already be backed up. It's basically all of the metadata and the cache and all of that good stuff. So if we go back to the guide here, then there's also a registry. This won't be compatible with TrueNAS, but it will be nice to have as a reference. So an HKey local user, software Plex, and Plex Media Server. We'll export that. In the registry. So it's in current user, software, Plex Media Server. So we'll export that. We'll just put it on the desktop for now. Call it Plex. And apparently it does not give you a pop-up box saying it's finished, so I guess it's done. So we can put that on the backup server. So I guess we'll put it here. Okay. So now that file is backed up. Okay, so I just did a whole bunch of capturing, and then I realized that I was recording the wrong screen. So that's great. Basically what I've done is it's the next day and I had some backups that had to finish running. I did export all of the VMs and now I'm booting, well, I was trying to boot into TrueNAS to take a full backup of the server. Well, yeah, I'm taking the backup and then after the backup's done I will reinstall the OS with Proxmox, and I did decide to actually use the Optane because while the backup was running I was reading something about SSD wear, and I also noticed on my networking firewall Proxmox host that the SSD has worn out 51% over the past, let's say 180 200 days, which is not good. So I did disable some HA services now. I didn't know you had to do that. I did go ahead and create I shouldn't actually leave that because I had to press the button. In HexOS on my backup server I did create a new user because I had to have a simple password for the user to be able to type it in, because all of the other users have random passwords. Okay, finally. I did already change the boot order, so okay, didn't need to do that. That told me to press a button to do something, and just to make sure. But yeah, I created a migration user here, and I gave it access to the backup file, the backup dataset. I did also fill up my second dataset because I copied some backups from one dataset to the other so that they are on both. Anyways, I'm talking too much. So when I'm taking the backup here, you can see it has some unsupported, and these are probably my 3 18 terabytes in the storage spaces, which probably doesn't support storage spaces. You can see my NVMe for my VMs, and then the OS drive. Then these two are the ones, well, that was in the recording that was on my second screen. So these two I did create as also a redundant backup on that, just to be absolutely sure. But I don't need to take a backup of those with this image. This is just for the OS. No, numpad. Okay, should load. Why doesn't it load? Yep, okay, finally. So we'll try, like, what is this, the 5th time? So you can't even say 3rd time's the charm, because this is a bit more than 3rd. So there. We'll put it on. Okay, yeah, now it's searching. So the way you can see it's searching is actually because the mouse doesn't change when you move over a text area. So that's how you know it's, and plus the cursor stops blinking. So you can see it's actually doing something. Okay, so we'll do migrate. And then we'll do the password. Okay, good. And then we'll put it in main backup. And we'll just call it new folder. So that generate. Okay. Next, then we'll go to options. We'll just do validation. And yeah, don't need proceed. Okay, so this will take a while also, especially now that we're doing on it 1 gigabit. So after waiting for what feels like forever, the backup is finally complete, and it's now time to take out the server from the rack and put it on the bench, install the Optane drive, and install Proxmox. I can't remember if I told already, but I've decided to do Optane anyway, since I was doing some research about SSD wear, and people don't recommend use consumer SSD for Proxmox and ZFS and that stuff. So I've decided to go with an Optane SSD that I already have. You can see that one here. So I'll be installing Proxmox to that. So the server is off now. We'll just disconnect the cables in the back. There we go. So we now have the server on the bench, and I will be able to unscrew the top case and be put in the SSD. So I think I can just balance my camera here. I don't know how well this is gonna work. I was not able to find my tripod for my camera, so I'm using a gimbal with a small little tripod, but it's not really that easy. The NVMe is now installed here. As you can see, apparently there was already a screw in the slot, so I didn't need to grab the one from the motherboard case, but yeah, I think that's fine. So you can see it's just installed there, and that is the last NVMe slot I have left on this motherboard, because the one that's, I don't know if you can see it, there's a heatsink down under there, which has my 2 TB NVMe for the VMs. So we'll use this as the boot drive, and then I think for now I will just disconnect this one. You can see here, disconnect power as well. So this is the SSD that has Windows on it. It's a 128 GB consumer Kingston SSD, and as again I read up that it can really wear out your SSDs pretty quick, so people recommend like Optane or Enterprise SSD. So okay, pretty painless experience. So we'll go around to the back here, and we can just see the cables that we need if I point the camera the right way. So this one needs to go here, KVM goes there, powers up, and then the power cable, which is somewhere there, it is then. Okay, and kind of need both hands. So this is the 2.5, the 1 gigabit NIC that I'm using. I'll use this to set Proxmox up, and then I'll configure a secondary bridge on the 2.5 gigabit. But it will just be easier because this one, when I initially set it up, it doesn't need VLANs, so it will be easier to just have it plugged into that. Yeah, now we can agree. So the target will be the Optane. Next. There's something on these IPs that is not documented here. It's like my printers and stuff. So I think we'll give it 11. Well, I suppose the default is the one where it actually got an IP. It did get an IP on this one. So I suppose it wouldn't be able to get an IP on the one with VLANs. So that probably means that this one is the USB adapter. Let's hope that. Oh, we'll install. That's one thing I don't like about macOS. It's like the Alt tab with windows behind other windows. It's annoying, to say the least. So we'll run that. We'll say power save. Set to power save. Good. Set up cron tab. Cross reboots. Yep, that's good. And then we'll try to get the console to show up, if that's possible. This forbidden OS. There it is. Okay. So we see boot EFI. Then what are we supposed to see? God damn it, I hate this. Okay, so file EFI, then you're using systemd. Okay, I don't think we see. We have to quit this. Okay, so I don't see. I do EFI boot EFI thing there. Systemd boot. Does it say systemd? Doesn't say systemd, so I think I'm using grub probably. Okay, using grub. Okay, so we'll go to that config here. And that didn't work. Why is it not copying? There you go. Do that. Good. Save that. Okay, and then we need to update grub. Okay, don't need that. Okay, so we need to do the modules. And we just go there, copy this. Save. That all looks good, the part up there. Okay, and then yeah, reboot, and then we verify. So we'll go to, let's see, disks. Okay, so we see the three hard drives. Then we see that's the NVMe, and then that's the boot device. So this one we'll do. Yeah, I do have a backup. So we are sure it's the right one. Wipe. Okay. So I think I want an LVM. So we'll do the 2 terabyte. Storage. Okay. Yeah, right, it shows up there. We can do VM disks for some reason, not ISOs. Yeah, of course. We'll insist. Okay, so I reinstalled Proxmox, and now I have what I want. I was not able to remove that LVM thing, so I just reinstalled Proxmox, and now everything should be good. So I'll add it with the correct name this time. We'll do 2 terabyte, and then I've decided to call it NVMe LVM, because usually it's called local LVM and local, so I'll call it NVMe LVM. Make sure that's correct. Great. Okay. So, and now we just have to make sure we don't delete it. Okay, I've just attached the SSD, but I did realize that I have to also set up the network, and I think I want to do that first. Yeah, okay, that's what I should do. Yeah. Okay, so remove that. And then we'll create a VLAN. Actually, we'll move the IP address as well. Create a VLAN, and then we'll do EMBR 1.2. Give it that IP. Okay, so now that one has an IP, and then this one is bridged to that port, and then this port or this VLAN points to the bridge, and then it has the IP, so that should also work. We'll apply that. But this is like the situation where it's nice to have 2 network adapters, because then even though if I screw up the network configuration, then I'll still be able to reach it by the other adapter. I don't have to go into the terminal over the KVM. So as you can see, that works fine, and we don't need to create all the other VLANs, because the VMs can attach directly to this and then have the VLAN tag after it. So network is good. It's very good. It's very good. Let's do another SPLK. And okay, that was a user error. I found out that the cable wasn't plugged in all the way. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think that's the one. Do like a disable hj.sh. Paste that in. Let's do chmod +x disable. Let's do that. Okay. So good. Okay, now we can skip to this next step. Okay, so we need to make directory. Of course, we're already root, so don't need the sudo. So mount the partition, and then it would be SD something. STD, I presume. Dev STD. Do you want the specific partition? I guess so. STD2. So do nano import .sh. Okay, we'll take the command that we made over here. Create VM. TS. Easier too. Okay. Then we need to put it no media. Yep. do Windows, and then this is a Windows 2019, I'm pretty ooh, I don't remember. It's not 2025. Yeah, so it's... Is it 2022? Yeah, I think I upgraded all of my VMs to 2022. So the thing is that default will do machine, it had to be Q35. Yep. Do CBIOS. No, we'll not do CBIOS. We'll do that. We'll put it in LVM, I guess. SCSI should be fine. Okay, do next. TPM. Okay. We'll do IDE. We'll do 1 GB. And we'll do that. Actually, this is temporary, so it shouldn't matter. Okay, cores, 2 cores. And we'll give it host. We'll give it yeah, we'll give it 4 gigs of RAM. Put it on VLAN 2, on VMBR1, and that network adapter should be VirtIO. Okay, finish. Okay, so this one will import to 100, of course. And we can just copy this. And yeah, it's just this step over and over again. So I've now painstakingly created each VM, and as you can see in the import script here, I have all of the virtual hard disks for each VM. As you can see, some of them have small names in the virtual hard disk file, but big letters here. And yeah, so I had to go into each directory, make sure everything was correct, all of the names, and I'm not 100%, I'll still be looking out for errors while the script is running, but hopefully everything will be good. So I think it's just time to run the script. You can see each VM has its own ID. This last VM has 3 hard disks, and I've created all of them with, I did create the first few VMs. I created the hard disk in the wrong location, created on local instead of LVM, but since it's a temporary hard disk, I think it will be fine. So I think it's time to run it and see, hopefully, fingers crossed, everything will be good. Wow, that's going pretty quick actually. Okay, yeah, this is going way faster than in my proof of concept. In that video you could see it was going painfully slow, whereas here it's actually going 10 gigabytes in, yeah, well, we could time it, but I think it's going at a gigabyte per second. So actually it's the next day now, and I did realize that I made a pretty big mistake when setting up the storage for the VMs. So I set it up as a LVM, and that's pretty much the worst option that you could choose. Whereas if you chose LVM thin, then it would actually... So the problem with normal LVM is that it doesn't have thin provisioning, which means each virtual hard disk you create takes up the full size. So if you create a 127 gigabyte virtual hard disk, it takes up that immediately without you using the space. If I created a LVM thin, then it would be thin, so it would only be using the space that you actually used. Luckily I did have enough space, but yeah, that was the first problem. And the second problem, no, that's the problem with LVM. So I could have created LVM thin and that problem would have been solved. But what I actually will do is I will create a ZFS instead, because that's just a lot more flexible. So right now what I'm doing is I'm actually exporting, taking each VM, and I'm moving the storage to I deleted all of the virtual hard disks from my T7 SSD, and I formatted with ZFS. So now I'm moving all of the virtual hard disks. Let's take this one for example. I'm going move storage to the temp. And this I'm doing because when I'm done moving all the VMs, I'll be able to format the NVMe LVM to ZFS. And then I will move all the VMs back. Six 1.6 terabytes, so it's clearly using more than, so it's not fully thin provisioned. I was hoping it would be. Okay, so it did take me a while to figure out actually where to set this sparse configuration, but I did find it in this file here, ettpv storage.cfg. Most people on the forums that says, oh, you can easily add this, and then it's like, yeah, but where? But yeah, so the guy added it to the middle of his configuration, as you can see here. And then if it is truly actually only copying the use data, this domain controller should be the one that has the least amount of stuff on it. Okay, that's done. So copy this just to see. To baseline first. So 1 megabytes. Okay. So if we copy this to ZFS, don't delete it on there. There's no reason to do that yet. Did it actually save this config? I hope so. Yeah, it did. Would be surprising if it updated instantly, because you know it's if you fuck up that config, it will just nuke your storage instantly. It seems not like a great idea. Okay, so we have the unused disk on the external. Let's go to ZFS. Yeah, 14 gigabytes. So you can see how much space I'm saving. Like 14 to 60, so I'm saving 50 gigabytes on that. So okay, so apparently you don't need to reboot. That's interesting. Very interesting. So I guess I can remove the unused disk. Then I can move this to ZFS, delete source, and the next one to ZFS, delete. Might as well also start it just to make sure everything is good. So now ZFS here should have all of them. Didn't even need to set the boot order. That's impressive. For once I don't need to set that. So it looks like it's fine. I'll set another one to transfer. I'll keep an eye on the terabytes written and the health of the drive. Right now it's at 9%, I believe. Yeah, it's at 9%. And we just have, for reference here, so written 70 terabytes, read 360. The reason it read so much was because of my backup. It pretty much ran every week and it didn't do incremental or anything. It just put a full backup each week. So that was that read quite a lot, but it's not being worn by reading, so that was totally fine. And the backup was being written to a hard drive. So that's it. We've now successfully migrated from Hyper-V to Proxmox. The storage is running in ZFS just fine now. It's been running for about 1 day and it seems to be working fine. It ended up only taking about 750 gigabytes instead of 1.2, which it was using in Windows. So it seems that the sparse storage method is more efficient in Linux than it is in Windows. Even though the video was kind of long, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to leave a like, a comment and subscribe. And then I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.